Hello there, Lunar Squadron, and welcome back to the channel. What a week it has been for Star Wars Outlaws, as on Tuesday, we received the brand new story trailer, and if you have not yet seen our frame-by-frame breakdown, I highly recommend checking that out after this video, especially if you want to spend 45 minutes digging deep into the Star Wars lore that surrounds this game. But today, we want to sit down and talk about all of the exciting new gameplay and story details that were revealed for Outlaws thanks to Game Informer. But before we break all of this information down, if you're new to the channel, we would love to have you as always, and the way to do that is just go down below this video, hit that little subscribe button and the bell notification right on next to it. It'll notify you every single time that Andreas and I upload. If you want to stay up to date with us in real time, go over to Twitter and follow us at Lunar Squadron. Now, with all of that out of the way, Andreas, you ready to jump into all of these exciting new details? There's a lot here.
Yeah, there is, Nick. Let's get into it, guys. Today's discussion is based off of the brand new article out of Game Informer entitled Star Wars Outlaws Exclusive Hands-On Impressions by Brian Shea. And I highly recommend that you go check out this article if you're not worried about story spoilers. There is a very in-depth description of at least one story mission or main mission in this game. So if you are averse to that kind of material, stick right here in this video, because we're just going to be talking about the mechanics involved. We're not going to be going down any spoilers. Just, we know that you guys are sensitive to that, so we've tried to filter out any of that and pare this discussion down to some of the key points that we are taking from this article. Nick, why don't you kick us off with the first point?
Yes, one of the very first things that we learn in this article is about Miragana, which is, of course, the capital city of the brand new planet, Qi'ra. And we learn that Miragana is a very compact, dense, and full of activity city. And the quote we get from Julian Garriott is, Miragana is dense and multi-leveled, but it was intentionally designed to not be a sprawling city like in other open-world games. If you open up the map, the location that we've built for Miragana is quite compact. What we wanted to do is to have something that is very dense in activities rather than super expansive where you get lost and there's not much to do. It's very, very focused on providing a dense, busy city experience. Andreas, this might be a little controversial for some just because some people really care about the overall size of these open world maps, but I think this is the approach that is more appropriate for this game and for building out a more in-depth open world. I want dense and a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Nick. And also, I think Garrity may even be selling the scope of his city short here, because we saw a look of Miragana, and to my eyes, this shot of Miragana looks like a pretty sizable city, to be honest. I think this is fairly large. I wouldn't consider it to be a small city, but that said, it does look like something that I would hope would be dense and full of activities, not just facades and shops that don't really provide any function to you as a player when you're playing through these areas. And to that end, we got another excerpt from this article which reads, Kay ignores the beckoning shopkeepers, arcade games, betting areas, and a table hosting the in-universe card game Sabacc to find her way to the cantina. And so this just paints a bit of a picture on the sorts of things that you can expect will be populating Miragana here. We have shopkeepers, arcade games, betting areas. I hope that every corner of this city feels lived in, and from what Garrity is saying, it seems like there's a focus in packing this city with activity, so there's actually stuff to do. And Nick, I'd rather have an alive city than a large sprawling one that is dead as a doornail.
Yeah, definitely. And what really excites me about what we learned from Miragana is the fact that it will be multi-leveled. So there will be that verticality, which if you caught our breakdown, that is one thing I was really wondering about these areas. Would there be a sense of verticality for Kay to explore? And it sounds like, at least in Miragana, that is going to be the case. But the other thing is it's really exciting to get confirmation that games like Sabacc, those well-known Star Wars things, are going to be featured in this game. We had speculated on this based off of the South Korean rating system, but it's really cool to get confirmation that stuff like Sabak will be in this game. And near the tail end of that quote, they talk about Kay finding her way to the cantina. And Andres, we learned that cantinas are actually going to play a very major role in this game. And that makes a ton of sense just given the fact that this game is about criminals and outlaws and syndicates, and the cantina just makes a lot of sense. I mean, the first time we ever see a scoundrel smuggler in the Star Wars universe is in the Mos Eisley Cantina, where we are welcomed to Han Solo. And this article says, in each city you visit, the cantina is always a central location for getting the lay of the land, gathering intel, and finding work. Toshara, and Miragana in particular, is primarily a Pike enclave despite being home to other syndicates as well. Andreas, this is really exciting. Like, the cantina is going to be your central hub. It kind of reminds me of the cantina on Kobo in Jedi Survivor, but this is going to be in every city.
Yeah, it is. And then later on in the article, they say that you're able to take optional jobs in the cantina. And I think this is just a great solution for a typical problem with open world games of trying to find creative ways to loop a player into optional work. And I think this is just a great way that they have done that. And we've already seen one of these cantinas in the story trailer. I think it's the Mos Eisley Cantina. But Nick, you have to imagine if every single planet in this game has a cantina. We know that Mos Eisley Spaceport is in this game. There has to be the Mos Eisley Cantina in this game. Like, that's as good as confirmed at this point, right?
I mean, if you take them for face value, saying that every city has a cantina, Mos Eisley's in this game, like the Mos Eisley Cantina, that has to be in the game, right? Which is very exciting. That is so cool. And the other thing that I really love about this quote here is how they talk about that, like, this area is primarily a Pike area, and we learned that from the gameplay reveal trailer from last year where you're working against the Pikes. It was all about the Pikes. But I'm very curious to see what the other syndicate presence will be on Toshara. It sounds like Crimson Dawn is going to be there, but I want to just see what the extent of that is, and will clans like the Ashiga clan, which are featured primarily on Kijimi, will they also be on Toshara? I'm just excited to see what the extent of the other syndicates on this planet is going to be.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Nick, because if you will have seen our story trailer frame by frame breakdown, you will know that this story will take place at the doorstep of the Syndicate Wars. And I would love to see these syndicates clashing with each other. And I really want to see the tension between syndicates because, you know, there's so much of a story to tell between Kay and each of those syndicates individually. But when you start crossing things over, I think that's where this game is going to start really picking up the pace. And that's the stuff that I can't wait for. So it's really nice to see that there is crossover and that other syndicates will be crossing over into other syndicates' territories, such as with this quote here. And speaking about crossing over into territories that you're not supposed to be in, we also learn that there is a lockpicking mechanism and minigame. Most notably, we have this quote here saying, "Luckily, Kay's hairpin is a data spike, so I can lockpick a side door using a rhythm-based minigame." And Nick, I think this will really fold nicely into a broader discussion on the stealth system in this game and how stealth is going to play into this game, which we can get into a bit later. But it's really nice to see that they have thought out mini games that can make those stealth sequences actually fun.
I want to take it back to the syndicates because you talked about how this game is going to take place right around that syndicate wartime, the bounty hunter comics. Like, it is right in that same time frame in the Star Wars canon. And one of the most exciting, if probably not the most exciting thing that we've learned this week about Star Wars Outlaws is the return of Crimson Dawn. And Game Informer themselves confirmed that Lady Qi'ra will be returning to the Star Wars universe in Star Wars Outlaws and will be the leader of Crimson Dawn. That's obviously the case, but Qi'ra will return, which is so exciting. I'm so happy to see this character return. She is one of the most interesting characters that has come out of the Disney era of Star Wars, at least for me in particular. But we also learn some of the names of the other leaders of the syndicates. We learn that the Pikes will be headed by a Pike named Gorak. Of course, the Hutts will be headed by Jabba the Hutt. We also learn that the Ashiga clan leader is named Queen Ashiga. That's pretty simple and straightforward, but it's cool to get some names of who we're going to be dealing with when it comes to these crime syndicates, and of course, Qi'ra being confirmed.
Yeah, I mean, that's just such a great thing to see Qi'ra confirmed in this game, because this game would feel a bit off without the presence of Crimson Dawn and Lady Qi'ra, and that's something that we've been talking about leading up to this story trailer, is the omission of Crimson Dawn from the initial marketing run. So it's just good to see that that has found a place in this game, because rightfully so, you cannot tell an Outlaws Syndicate story without including Crimson Dawn in this time period. It just wouldn't make any sense, so really glad to see that that has fallen into place nicely. And about these syndicates, Nick, this article does a great job of filling in some color to the reputation system that we've heard so much about, but we've kind of heard about it in passing, that you'll be able to gain and lose reputation and that you live and die by your reputation with the various syndicates. But this article talks about mechanically how that is going to work. First and foremost, we have this quote here, which says, "The reputation system represents your standing with these 4 syndicates, ranging from terrible to excellent for each individual group." The first thing I want to point out in this quote, Nick, is that the reputation system only pertains to 4 syndicates that this article lists, which is the Pikes, the Hutts, Crimson Dawn, and Ashiga clan. The story trailer introduced Zerek Besh, headed by Slero, and it looks like there will be no reputation meter associated with Zerek Besh. It'll only be those 4 syndicates, at least as far as this early access gameplay revealed to the individual that was testing out the game. So far, we only have confirmation for a reputation system for those other 4. And also, we've learned that this reputation system has a range from terrible all the way up to excellent. I'm wondering the practical implications of being terrible. It looks like they've painted some color to that, but what I haven't seen yet, just because it seems like they only tested this game at an earlier stage, what happens when you get to that excellent range? Like, are you going to be able to work your way up to becoming like buddy with Lady Qi'ra and Jabba the Hutt? Like, can you work your way up to where you might be Jabba the Hutt's right-hand man? Like, can you replace Bib Fortuna, or hell, can you even replace Jabba himself if you get to that excellent level? I want to see how deep the rabbit hole goes there.
Yeah, I expect something along the lines of, like, as you work your way to excellent, that's what gets you those, like, face-to-face meetings that we see in the story trailer with the heads of these syndicates. Like, you have to build that reputation to just even get your foot in that door, and then maybe they'll offer, like, special missions that have phenomenal rewards or something like that. And kicking it back to Zerek Besh, how it appears they will not be included in that reputation system, I think given what we know about the nature between Kay's relationship with Zerek Besh, that makes a ton of sense. Like, this does not appear to be a relationship that can be repaired at all. Like, they are sending bounty hunters after you. They want your head. It makes sense that they're not included in the reputation system. And we also learn a lot more context, I guess I would say, around what the reputation system will impact. Of course, we've heard a lot about this over the last few months, but this quote says, "Having a good reputation may mean that they let you walk freely in their hideouts, offer you special stock or discounts at shops in their territories, and even help you out if you get into a hairy situation with another syndicate or even the Empire." So, Andres, we knew a little bit about the fact that, like, they'll lock you out of territories or they'll let you in, and this whole thing about granting certain access to vendors. But what I really love here is that they'll, like, jump in and help you out with other syndicates and against the Empire. Like, that's going to be a cool open world mechanic in this game if it works the right way.
Yeah, honestly, this is really what is going to make this game fire on all cylinders for me personally, because this is something that I would dream about with a syndicate simulator like this. We also learned about how you will be able to get that reputation to go up and down, and it looks like we will be able to choose who we want to screw over in this game and choose who we want to help. And they actually gave us some examples of this. I want to refer to this portion of the article where it says, "Player agency and the reputation system again pop up in my playthrough, as I can choose if I want to steal a blaster part from the Pike Syndicate or Crimson Dawn. Both of them have presence on Miragana, but since I have a better reputation with Crimson Dawn, they let me walk right in without resistance. So Nick, it looks like you're able to choose who you want to screw over, and you might have to make some tough decisions here. Do you want to potentially lower your reputation and get caught stealing from a syndicate that you have good favor and good reputation with, or do you just want to tank your reputation with another syndicate because you've been building so much favor with, say, Crimson Dawn?
Yeah, and you know what's really exciting about this is that this reputation system allows you to manipulate these syndicates and play that game that we know in the Outlaw universe of Star Wars, where he chooses to screw over Crimson Dawn because that's the one he has a better reputation with, because they just let him walk right on in and just go steal the thing. So like, he uses that good reputation against them, which is a really cool mechanic. But we also learned, like you said, we can choose who to help. And there's a point in this article where he's describing a story mission, and I don't want to get in depth into those details because this author gets very in-depth and honestly a little spoilery, but basically Kay is sent out to collect an item for a mission, and this article says that, and at this moment the player has a choice. Do you provide it to the Pike Syndicate as initially planned, or your new associates in Crimson Dawn? And this person chose to give this item to Crimson Dawn to raise their reputation with them. So we also will have this agency. They really harp on that word, that there's a lot of focus on player agency, especially when it comes to these syndicates, as to who to work with, who to work against. Even in the moment, you can change your mind. You went out to help the Pikes, but at the last moment, you're like, maybe I actually want to give this to the Crimson Dawn, which is just a really cool mechanic in this game. It's going to be really exciting to mess around with this and honestly just manipulate all of these crime syndicates.
And to that end, Nick, we also learn that the stealth system in this game plays hand in hand with the reputation system. The example that they gave is that Star Wars Outlaws strives to provide player agency, but in early portions of a hideout infiltration, you need to be stealthy. As such, Kay's blaster is off limits until she can get deeper into the territory. And what this is referring to is when you were on the terrible end of that reputation spectrum, no one in a syndicate is going to let you walk in the door and just have your way with them. You have to actually sneak in and be stealthy, use that stealth system at the beginning, and then once you build reputation, you might have greater and greater access to these off-limits areas. And on that note, we're also told that there is an alarm system that once you trip that alarm, your reputation with that given syndicate will be damaged if you do trigger an alarm or if you're seen in a security camera. The quote here is, "Since I triggered an alarm, my reputation with the Pikes drops. Had I made it through without being spotted, my reputation with them would not have taken a hit." And also, Nick, finally about this stealth system, we learned that there is a feature from the Assassin's Creed era, and that is that silhouette that lets you know where your last known location is, and that enemies will go investigate that silhouette, so you can kind of play around with that as you will. But interesting stuff here about the stealth system in this game.
Yeah, this article is packed with a ton of new gameplay and story information. Like, there is a lot to go over here, and I just want to kind of close this video out with this last little bit where we learn some more information about the speeder. The quote is, "With a press of a button, I summon a speeder, which massive designed with inspiration from a Swedish motorbike manufacturer. The vehicle feels excellent in action, smooth, quick, and agile like a speeder should." So we learn that you will be able to just summon the speeder instantly with the press of the button, which is going to really help the gameplay loop of this game. It might not be the most realistic thing in the world, but at the end of the day, this is a Star Wars game, and Star Wars is not based in realism, so it's going to be nice to just have this little gameplay mechanic that allows you to pull up your speeder whenever you want. I think that is going to really help the gameplay loop of this game, and it sounds like the person who played this game absolutely loved the way the speeder operates, which is really cool because it looks like it's going to be a pretty major mechanic in this game, especially since we have to traverse from place to place. So that is really cool. So guys, let us know down below. There was so much new information packed into this article. Honestly, we're learning so much every single day about Star Wars Outlaws when it comes to the gameplay and the story and all kinds of content. Like, there is a lot going on. So let us know your thoughts down below on what you are excited to see in this game, or what you've learned that really has you hyped about this game, or perhaps maybe you're just not as hyped now after some of the stuff we've learned this week. You never know what could happen. Definitely let us know your thoughts down below. We love reading through them and interacting with you all. Also, if you want to stay up to date with us in this conversation, go over, join our Discord. The link to that will be down below in the description. Anyway, guys, that is going to do it for us for this one. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you all next time.